So, 2020's been a pretty sucky year. But you know what hasn't sucked? The books. So, let's just take a moment here to try and appreciate the things that weren't so bad. Hello, I'm Jenna, and you're watching another WWM Productions video. As you can tell from the title, I am back talking about books, but I have a fairly good reason for it this time, because yes, as I've said multiple times, this is a film channel, but 2020 has certainly been a year, and it has certainly messed with the movie release schedule, production schedules, and honestly, 2020 releases have not been much of a thing this year. So generally, if you follow other film channels, you will generally see around this time in other years, like all of these ranking lists that go throughout the year and talk about the best movies, but you can't really do that this year, can you? I mean, Ava and I have found new releases like on Netflix to talk about, but I don't really want to rank any of them. However, what has not been so deeply affected by 2020 has been the release of books. Yes, like there have been major problems with the releases. There was a paper shortage at the beginning of the year, which was greatly overshadowed by the fact that touring and marketing and buying books were all deeply affected by this pandemic. However, authors and publishing houses still persisted to release some amazing books this year. So I thought I would retcon this channel a little bit and talk about books again. I'm sorry. I figured I would make a quick video to talk about some of my favorite books of 2020. And I just want to say before we get started that this is a personal list. This is in no way supposed to be deeply critical. These are just my favorite books that I read in 2020 that were released in 2020. And before I get into the meat of the list, I just want to say some honorable mentions that were books that released this year that were really good but were a little overshadowed by books that I maybe liked more, or books that I read this year but were not released this year. So, before we get to the big books, the honorable mentions I have are Fair by Hannah Capin, The Midnight Lie by Marie Rutkowski, Havenfall by Sara Holland, Surrender Your Sons by Adam Sass, Darius the Great Deserves Better by Adib Khorram, Radio Sounds by Oseman, Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson, Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor, The Toll by Neal Shusterman, and Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Those were just some books that I would have kicked myself if I had made this video and I hadn't mentioned them at least, but those are not the main event of this video. Now, without any further ado, let us get into the best books that I read in 2020. By the way, this is just orange juice, this is not alcoholic, don't worry, I haven't lost my mind, this is orange juice. This is just a bit that I'm way too committed to. So, book number 1 is Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. This is an amazing fantasy book. It's a thrilling and beautifully woven Bolivian-inspired debut that is just absolutely amazing to read. The writing in this book is just so spectacular. Spectacle is a great word to describe this book. Some of the scenes are just so electric, and there are such interesting characters, and there are sword fights and rebellions. How could you not enjoy this book? It's just so good and unlike anything I've read because of its deeply personal inspiration that the author draws from. And it's just the intriguing characters and the setting come together to create a masterful story that cannot be missed. And the second book I have on here is kind of unexpected for me, but it is Aurora Burning by Amie, Kaufman, and Kristoff. This book I did not expect to like as much as I did because this is a sequel, and I'd read the first book. It was one of the most anticipated books I was waiting for last year. Then I read it and I was just kind of disappointed. I expected more from these authors. They're really amazing and they've written great things together, but I don't know, that book kind of just left me feeling hollow, and I had all these expectations that I really thought would be met, but they weren't. But then this book comes along and just blew me away. This was just so good. It was everything I wanted and more. It was a expertly crafted science fiction novel with thrilling suspense and high stakes that really kept the entire plot moving, and I was just floored. I would open this book to read it and I just could not close it no matter what I had going on that day. I just had to keep reading. And the characters were just so human and interesting to read about that just completely blew me away and totally won me over on the series. And the ending was just... It was a cruel and unusual punishment that I did not need, but you know what? That book is really good. So next up on the list is the second Check Please book by Ngozi Ukazu. I probably pronounced that name wrong and I am deeply sorry about that because this book is just so comforting. Like, I know I just talked about like a high-stakes science fiction novel, but now I'm talking about a contemporary graphic novel that it's like a warm hug to read. It's just so nice, and like there's pie and baking, but there's hockey, and it's a beautifully illustrated graphic novel that, like, is reading it in April was my version of the Animal Crossing phase. Like, it was just a sweetly romantic and charming coming-of-age story that never fails to make me smile. It's so nice and just feels. I loved it. It was great. All of the characters and the story, it was just so sweet and like... And to, again, go in another direction, isn't it just fun watching videos with me just all over the place? It's great. Is The Boy in the Red Dress by Kristin Lambert, and I was enamored with this queer jazz age murder mystery. It was just not what I was expecting. I picked it up on a whim and I just fell in love. It was great. Like, we need more books with an all LGBTQ plus cast and the token straight character. Like, please, can we do that? Like, I want it. It was... Thank you, Kristin Lambert. People are driving around outside and they're being really loud. The Prohibition-era historical fiction mixed with a gripping mystery made a glorious cocktail of book that I just could not put down. I was kept guessing and in suspense, and I just wanted to know who did the murder. It was a mystery, it was historical fiction, two things that, like, when done really well, I was just sucked in, and it was just a deeply alluring and just all around, like, greatly crafted book. Like, it doesn't get any better than that, honestly. Next on this list is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. It was a deeply moving, semi-autobiographical book of growing up, strength, discrimination, and struggle between cutting prose and alluring magical realism. This is a book that was a powerful must-read. Like, this is a book that was just done so well that there was no way I couldn't say it was one of the best books I had read this year. It was just so good, and the story it told is just deeply relevant and impactful to today that honestly I think everyone should read, because yes, it's not a straight contemporary, but I don't think you need a straight contemporary book to tell a story that everyone needs to read. This book was just done so well, and there are so many different layers to it that just hours after I had finished it, I was still like laying on my back completely like, oh my god, thinking about this book, gotta piece everything together. It was just an experience that everyone should have. The next book is The Deathless Divide by Justina, and I don't know why 2020 of all years was the years where I just really vibed with sequels to books, and I liked the first book in this series by Justina Ireland, but this book just took me up off the ground and threw me into this book. It was so good. Like, sequels popped off this year. That's what I'm trying to say here, because I already liked Dread Nation, the first book in this series, but this was off the charts. This was a gritty apocalypse epic across post-Civil War America with queer, black, and female leads, and it was just so good. I cannot stress this enough. Like, Deathless Divide does not suffer like a sequel slump at all. It just hits the ground running, and it just goes and goes and goes. It tells so much story, and like, it's a big book. It was much larger than the first book in what I was expecting, and it uses that page time. It was just, the setting was like magnificently crafted, and it took this what-if scenario to a whole nother level of understanding, and the author just really brought representation and also just historically accurate representation. And yes, this is a zombie apocalypse book, but it uses that element to its fullest advantage to talk about humanity and horror and the things that people will go through throughout their lives. It was just, what is there not to love about this book? The Deathless Divide, if you read Dread Nation and you have not read The Deathless Divide yet, you are missing out on some of the best character moments in writing in this series. Just get on that. You're sleeping on this book. But this book is none other than Legendborn by Tracy Deon. Yes, I'm breaking this book out again because I'm clearly not over it like I should be. This book is just so good. It's a powerhouse of emotion and fantasy and brilliant writing that comes together to create a finely woven plot that will leave you on the edge of your seat and guessing, and so many twists and turns and fantastic writing, honestly. I want to make a fan club of this book. I still have that reaction about this book, honestly. Like, it's just, I've discussed this book before, but, like, I'm not going to stop talking about it. Arthurian myth, plus diverse characters, secret societies, and relevant issues, all to blend a knockout of a book that I just absolutely adored. Like, there's no words to describe, like, the amount of fun I had just reading this book. Yes, brilliant. And next up on this list is, like, I have to include it, like, come on, it's me. But it's Tower of Nero by Rick Riordan, and yes, it's technically a middle grade book, but I have to include it. Like, this is my childhood, and my childhood is over, and of course it's 2020, but, like, what else can I say about it? Like, these books are just so special, and they're done so well, and they do so many great things, and it was just an utter joy to read. Like, I don't know, this isn't, like, a book I'm gonna, like, tell you, like, all the great things it does, because, like, this is totally, like, a pick that is just, like, my heart just going, like, you gotta talk about this book. Like, it's Rick Riordan, one of my favorite authors ever, and, like, these books are so good, okay, bye. Okay, I gotta, like, try and, like, keep calm while I talk about this, just, okay. Next book on this list is A Fable by Adrian Young, and oh my god, I love this book. I love Fable by Adrian Young so much. It's so good, and I was sleeping on this book, honestly. I saw nautical YA fantasy, and I was like, I've been burned by you before, not quite my favorite, I'm just gonna, I don't know about this, and then I got it from the library, and I read it in a couple of days, and I was like, Adrian Young, how are you so good at everything? And, okay. This may actually be one of the top best books I've read this year. The writing, the human characters, the impactful storytelling. I was ready to tumble headfirst into this riveting book. Like, everything from it is just exquisite, and I love the world building, the characters, all of it. I honestly forgot how much I hate boats and was ready to, like, step into this book and go on adventures with the cast of characters, because, like, this book is so good. Just so good. I also read, and that is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book is a completely just joyous and fun, scream-worthy contemporary about a girl who needs to get college money when her financial aid runs short to get out of her really conservative small town in Indiana and accomplish all of her dreams. So the only option she has left is to run for prom queen, but of course, as a social outsider and she's black, she really has to work hard for this, and along the way she may accidentally fall in love with one of the other girls running for prom queen. And this book is just, it's so adorable, but then it also talks about, like, such important things that, like, you read it and you're like, my heart is going in two different directions, and it's just, it's bubbly, it's great, it's amazing. It's just something to really fall into and enjoy. It's just a lovely young adult rom-com about first love and fitting in and standing out and finding your own place in the world. And it's just a beautiful story that had me smiling like a love-struck fool. I had a lot of fun while reading it, and I was just starry-eyed about it, okay? Last book that I'm going to talk about, and thank you for sticking with me for this list, and I hope that maybe I've encouraged you to check one of these books out, because all of these books that I mentioned in this video are just so amazing and so worth your time. Like, I know that out there we have a lot of people interested in film, but if you're like me and you just like stories, I highly recommend you check out any of these books. And if you've read any of them, please talk to me about them. Like, please do me a solid and check out at least one of these books. You will not regret it. Or you'll think I'll just have bad taste, but only one of those options is true. The last book is Alatsoe by Darcy Little Badger. And please, I beg you, find a copy of Alatsoe and read it. This is a supernatural novel about an asexual indigenous girl who can raise ghosts, and she is uprooting evil lurking in the town that killed her brother. This is a story you need to read. And, like, it blends a lot of, like, Native American influences and stories, and also just the experience of someone who is indigenous now and what they face in this country, with just really great supernatural elements. And it has these really nice illustrations throughout the pages, and the main characters are just so fun to enjoy, and just the mystery in this book is just the slightest bit weird that has you fully engrossed in it, and it takes place in America almost like the one we have now. And that almost is so intriguing, and it just creates a great society to read about, and it's a great book, as are all of these books. So I thank you all so much for watching this video, and this is the last video that I will be making this year. But trust me, the first video I have coming for you all next year will be amazing. As we get nearer to the holidays, I hope you all have a happy holidays no matter what you celebrate, and please be safe while you're doing it. Hopefully things will get better for the new year. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a nice day.